From the Whiskey Tangent Studios in Marlton, New Jersey, this is Whiskey Tangent News.
Hey everybody, this is Ed from the Whiskey Tangent Podcast, back with another episode of Whiskey News.
Woo!
And joining me as always is Scott.
Hey everybody.
And I'm going to tell you what we're going to talk about today.
All right.
So we got 10 news stories coming your way. 3 are going to be what we call industry news, talking about what's going on in the whiskey industry. 2 stories are going to deal with financial matters. 3 are going to be, and interestingly, science and technology, which we don't always hit on, so I'm kind of excited about that. And then 2 true crime, which once again are often hysterical, though they can be sad. And then we're going to talk about 12 new whiskeys coming out this month that you can buy, and then what we're doing in May.
That's right.
Tell us, Scott. Take us through. It's news time.
It is, and it is April 2024, and here's all the news that's fit to drink. In industry news, the first story that we have, the main story, the top story, if you will, federal judge rules Woodford Reserve engaged in union busting.
Oh my gosh. Say it isn't so, Joe.
Andrew S. Gollin, an administrative law judge with the National Labor Relations Board.
And searcher of ring.
Gollin, not Gollum.
Oh, I thought you said Gollum. Sorry.
Union busting, my precious. Ruled last Monday that Woodford Reserve had undermined unionization efforts at its Kentucky distillery in 2022 by awarding $4 an hour pay raises, relaxing its vacation policy, and handing out bottles of their double-oaked whiskey to workers 1 week before they voted on whether or not to unionize. The employees subsequently voted it down, but the judge set aside the election results, stating that, quote, overall, the timing and circumstances surrounding these actions are more than sufficient to infer unlawful motivation. Brown-Forman, Woodford Reserve's...
I'm sorry, wait a minute. Okay. I just picture like a bunch of guys with $4 in their hand and a bottle of double oak, and then someone like, they're taking advantage of you. Why don't you mind your damn business? I know exactly what I'm doing.
I know. Brown-Forman, Woodford Reserve's parent company, said it took each of the actions in question for legitimate business reasons that were unrelated to the union campaign.
Just admit it.
Yeah. But in the judge's estimation, failed to prove that the additional perks would have occurred in the absence of the unionization effort. Joe Lance, vice president and business agent for Teamsters Local 651, said the judge made the right call. This is a clear-cut example of unlawful interference in what should have been a free and fair election. We hope this serves as a deterrent to other employers who will hopefully think twice before they violate federal labor laws.
Hey, listen, I'm a big union guy. You know, I think that union does keep the playing field equal, but people always love to point out the absurd. You know what I mean? It's like there's typesetters at the newspapers that when they went digital still had jobs because of the union. They just sat around drinking coffee all day. I mean, everyone's got these terrible union stories. Like, how many union guys does it take to dig a hole? 1 guy with a shovel and 3 to stand around and tell them how to do it. But listen, good union guy. My family were union.
You were in a teacher's union.
Of course, I was in a teacher's union. Not that that's always the best example of the union, but yes. Well, people hate, tenure. Here's the thing. If you don't believe that the local school board would love to get rid of higher paid teachers and bring in younger, cheaper teachers, they would.
Sure.
But you don't know what that would do to a culture of a school. The experience we have is invaluable in a lot of ways, and we mentor the young teachers. But the point is, without a union, without rules, what stops corporate America just getting rid of anybody they want? We'll pay you $20 an hour, and then we'll just get rid of you and pay someone $20 an hour. You know?
I think what you said originally was that it's checks and balances on corporations, because corporations are terrified of employees having any agency whatsoever. And when a union comes along, they do things like this. Now, this was kind of a comical one. They gave them extra bottle of whiskey and some relaxed vacation policy, but maybe the unionization effort worked. Because they got $4 an hour and some perks.
Right, but that particular union didn't get the dues and the members, so they're mad.
Well, that's true, too.
If a shop doesn't want a union, then the union should go away.
True.
So I can see the union's point, like, you used our pressure to force your bosses to give you a better deal, and then you're like, all right, thanks anyway.
Yeah.
So I can see how the union got used in this situation and why they're kind of testy about it. But
so we'll see what happens. They'll probably have another vote without any interference and see if they vote for it this time.
Right, sober, because they didn't drink a bottle of double oak before they voted.
That's right. Okay, so the second story we have is from the Japan Times. New Japanese whiskey rules finally go into effect.
Yes.
Japanese whiskey is not only world famous and often eye-wateringly expensive, but now it's also being more strictly defined in order to deter foreign-made imposters. Announced in 2021 and covered by us on episode 49 in December of that year. Good job. The new rules spell out exactly what can be labeled as a Japanese whiskey. At the time, a 3-year grace period was implemented to allow distillers to comply, but as of April 1st, that period has expired. So to reiterate the new rules, a Japanese whiskey brand must uphold the following. 1. Use water extracted in Japan. 2. Be fermented and distilled to less than 190 proof at a distillery in Japan. 3. Be aged at least 3 years in Japan in wooden casks of no more than 700 liters. And 4. Be bottled in Japan at 80 proof or higher. Additionally, plain caramel coloring is permitted. Said a spokesperson for Suntory, "We believe this will further improve the reputation of Japanese whiskey because it makes it easier for our international customers to distinguish it from other products."
Oh, I like the 3-year aging.
It's very similar to Scotch because Scotch you can also use caramel coloring in because they tend to be a little lighter because they're using used barrels.
Right. But that's, so what? Let it be what it is. I mean, a lot of Japanese whiskey looks a little bit like a urine sample. I'm not going to lie.
It's true.
I guess it's no big deal. I guess it's like dyeing a little bit. You're not adding flavor, right?
Correct. It's just
fine.
color.
Yeah, I guess I'm all right with it. Sure. What else is interesting to me is the fact that a country that copied how to make Scotch and started making like their own version of Scotch is now mad that people are making their own version of Japanese whiskey. That's a little irony there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the third and final story in industry news, then the next one is financial. From CNN, why are Scotland's ghost distilleries coming back to life?
Ooh. Yeah.
In 1983, after decades of overproduction and a global recession created an enormous Scotch surplus, the famed Port Ellen distillery, founded in 1825, was closed, but sales of their existing stocks continued. Today, however, it's the newest member of a club of ghost distilleries that are being lavishly refurbished after a decades-long boom in demand for single malt. The reason? Well, money, of course. You see, while dormant, Port Ellen had attracted a cult following among those who discovered the unique complexity of the releases of their continuously aging spirit. In fact, the bottles are now so sought after that the cheapest Port Ellen costs over $1,000. But there have been other recently resurrected distilleries as well, including Rosebank, Brora, Little Mill, Dallas Dew, and others, all of which likely have similar cult following tales to tell.
Question.
Yeah.
When did they stop making whiskey?
In 1983.
Okay.
And they're coming back.
I think my mind heard that the last one was like 1824.
They were founded in 1825.
Okay, I got that back with me. I'm like, no wonder. All right, so it's coming up on 40 years.
It's 41.
Yeah.
Additionally, while Port Ellen is laying down new barrels of spirit, it's also hoping to attract more upscale whiskey tourism fans with a by-appointment-only tasting experience that comes with a hefty price.
Oh.
Reportedly, $1,100 will get you a locally sourced lunch and a tasting of the Port Ellen Gemini pair of 44-year-old whiskeys that retail for over $50,000 each. But with single malt sales down 27% in the second half of 2023, there are concerns that the luxury Scotch sector may be in decline, which some say is a good thing. Says Roy Duff, editor of DramFace.com, whiskey is a people's drink, being slowly stolen by the wealthy. Enthusiasts elevated these whiskeys distilleries to the point where they can charge whatever they want, which is fine. They're a business after all, but we can also decide not to buy.
Yes.
However, according to Emily Burnham at Port Ellen, they're aware of the claims of elitism. We do need to be careful that we're not pricing out your average whiskey lover. At the moment, our whiskey is expensive because it's so old and so rare, but that won't be the case when we start releasing the newly made spirit in several years' time. The gamble here, though, is that maybe it'll be several years too late. Mm-hmm. Interesting development with Scotland's distilleries. These are like owned secretly by Diageo and the other big ones, bringing them back because of the popularity.
They're actually making whiskey at those sites again?
Yes, they're making new whiskey on the site.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Everything is so dynamic in the whiskey industry right now, particularly over the last 15 years, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the next 15 years, there'll be some bad, but there'll be a lot of good.
Yeah. It'll be interesting for sure. We did a whole episode on the future of bourbon, but that didn't encompass all whiskey in general.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens. We would love to tell the future. We'd be very rich.
So rich.
So rich.
Our friend Rich is so rich.
Is he?
Like you talk to him, it's like, yep, that's Rich.
He isn't rich. He's so rich.
Oh my God, that's so rich.
Oh my God, that's terrible. I love it.
I mean, I'm just saying, he's who he is.
I know. I love puns.
All right, we'll just cut that.
Nobody's listening anyway.
Right, we're just screaming into the void right now.
No. All right, so the next up, financial news.
Yes. The money, the thing that keeps everything going except for the podcast.
That's right. From Whiskey Advocate, MGP sales rise 7%.
A day.
Every day for the next 100 days.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me because we've been screaming into the void, if you will, about MGP's continued dominance as a player in the whiskey industry.
We have been. Amid increased competition, MGP Ingredients saw its total sales increased 7% to $254 million during fiscal year 2023. As we've covered before, starting in 2016, MGP began a strategic rethink that included a customized approach to its contract distilling business and, more importantly, the establishment of its own branded products.
Yes.
Which now include George Remus, Eighton Sand, Rossville Union, Penelope, as well as Luxco brands, Ezra Brooks, Rebel, Blood Oath, and Yellowstone, among others.
Wow.
In addition, the company's contract distilling business posted a healthy 5% increase overall, thanks to a 14% increase in the premium spirits category. When combined with their branded bottles, MGP's entire portfolio grew to a whopping $837 million overall.
And rising.
Yeah.
They're not done.
Nope.
And what's funny is, while some people do recognize, Pernod Ricard and Diageo, and of course, Beats Suntory and Buffalo Trace and
Heaven Hill
and Willet, and a lot of people do not know, do not have any clue who MGP is. So I think that's starting to change.
It is.
Right.
With all the acquisitions and the new brands that they've had, their profile is definitely raised a little higher. If you're just getting into whiskey, you might not know. But if you've been a couple years, you're going to hear about it.
I sometimes wonder how many of them good old boys know that their white label Jim Beam is owned by the Japanese.
Yeah, maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't. Maybe they do.
All right, so the next story in financial news from Yahoo Finance, we have a top 10 list.
Love it.
Yeah, the top 10 whiskey importing countries. Number 10, India. As the largest whiskey importing country by volume, India consumes almost half of the entire world supply of whiskey.
Wait, well, you said they're 10th, though. So,
by volume, which is the amount, just the liquid amount of bottles, not necessarily the price and not necessarily per person because they have so many people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they have overtaken France as the country that imports the most scotch.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Go ahead.
Number 9, Spain. Also deeply in love with Scottish whiskeys, Johnny Walker and Ballantine's being among the most popular, Spain also loves its fair share of Jack Daniels. So they import a lot of American whiskey as well.
Nice.
Number 8, Australia. Australians have developed a large appetite for whiskey in general, especially American whiskey, which became popular during the COVID-19 lockdowns. So they're just sitting at home doing nothing. They're like, might as well drink some Jack.
Just like us.
Number 7, Japan. Producing some top-notch whiskeys itself doesn't stop Japan from wanting more bottles beyond its shores, with Scotch imports totaling over 75 million bottles. Number 6, the Netherlands. Demand for American whiskey has exploded in the land of windmills, quintupling since 2019, making them the largest importer of American spirits in Europe.
Wow. I wouldn't have picked that.
I know I wouldn't either. Top 5 now. Number 5, China. Despite making up only 1% of the Chinese spirits market, whiskey is booming in the country, having grown tenfold in the last decade.
They don't really drink in China.
They don't.
We talked about this.
Yeah.
That some genetic Chinese don't process alcohol the same. Some don't get drunk and some get super drunk.
Yeah. I guess maybe they're just drinking for the taste now.
Interesting.
Yeah. Number 4, Germany. Although Germany's love for beer is well known, whiskey has gained significant ground, growing an impressive 48% last year alone.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And this is where we're seeing the growth of the whiskey industry here starting to, like we've been talking about, and it's starting to spill over the borders, I think.
Worldwide.
Because what's happening here is also happening in Scotland, right? More and more distilleries are popping up. What did Adam say? There's 2,600 whiskey distilleries in America right now. After Prohibition, there was like 6.
Yeah.
So we've added a lot in 100 years.
It's amazing.
2,594 to be exact.
Number 3, Singapore. But they kind of cheat.
Okay.
As the second busiest port in the world, Singapore receives an enormous amount of wine and spirits, but much of that is then re-exported to other nearby countries, including China, Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, and Australia.
Okay.
So they don't really drink it as much. I mean, they don't have that many people.
They don't have that many people,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
A couple million, right? I mean, I don't know exactly off the top of my head.
And they gave us TikTok, so.
That's right. Number 2, France.
Nice.
France is the country that drinks the most whiskey per person in the world, with a per capita average annual consumption of 2.15 liters per person.
That includes babies, everybody, just so you know that.
And French babies.
And here's the thing, they have to drink all that wine, all that champagne, and all that cognac as well.
And whiskey.
And then they get to be the number 1 whiskey consumer per capita.
Yeah. And as I said, just recently lost its Scotch import title to India, a country with over 20 times as many people.
Right. So they're doing their share.
They are. Number 1, Can you guess?
The United States.
That is correct.
Because
you are correct,
as much
sir.
as we make a boatload of whiskey, we like our Irish, we like our Scotch, we like our Japanese whiskey, and so on.
I thought I was going to stump you on that one.
Nope. I was thinking to myself, I was trying to plan ahead. I'm like, I was in 2 liquor stores today, and I see all the bottles that aren't made here on the shelf. So that was in my mind today.
Yeah.
And for what we have, we drink a lot.
Yeah, so what it says here is, although whiskey has been the drink of choice for many Americans, citizens since time immemorial, and the liquid gold we make ourselves is a force to be reckoned with, we seem to love that imported good stuff too. The United States is the largest importer of Scotch by value, with imports of $1.2 billion, once again crossing the $1 billion mark for the first time since the 25% tariff on UK imports was suspended in 2019. Additionally, the U.S. is the largest importer of all spirits combined in the world.
Right, vodkas,
tequilas,
gins,
Japanese, like just everything you said. Absinthe, yeah.
To me, vodka is just for people who don't like alcohol but want to get drunk, right? You take vodka and you put it with any fruit, you can't taste the vodka. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, you put it with soda, or vodka tonic. All you're tasting is a tonic.
Right. And that's okay.
That's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
We would encourage people, though, to try something a little bit more flavorful.
Listener intoxication is advised. However you get there.
Thank you.
If you want to drink vodka tonics and listen to us, we'll still take the viewership.
Yes, we will. Absolutely. So
absolutely. I like what you did there.
Oh! We're so dumb.
Stupid.
So dumb.
So dumb.
Yeah. Why you're listening to this? I don't know.
They're not.
They're not.
They're not really.
Okay. All right. So the next category we have is science and technology. The first one is from the techtimes.com.
Okay. I'm very intrigued by what these are going to be.
Yeah. How distillers are using artificial intelligence. Everyone's using it now. Port Ellen, which I just mentioned, was recently resurrected, has invested almost $44 million in an AI model dubbed Smoke DNA to better understand the aging process of whiskey in a barrel over time. Their team used the AI model to examine and evaluate the taste, scent, and textural characteristics of their Port Ellen Gemini whiskeys, which, as I said earlier, cost over $50,000 each. Samples are subjected to liquid chromatography, and then an algorithm separates the results into sets of unique visual profiles, allowing distillery staff to see the individual flavor components, which by their very nature are invisible to the naked eye. However, the first whiskey to use AI was actually created in 2021 by the Mackmyra distillery in Sweden, who partnered with the Finnish tech company Fourkind to train an AI model on hundreds of commercially successful whiskey recipes. After analyzing 70 million potential combinations, the AI eventually suggested a wholly unique new recipe that Mackmyra developed into a real whiskey called Intelligence. But that's not all AI can do for the whiskey industry. Brands are also beginning to use it to ensure that their social media buying is as efficient as possible, as well as for image generation, which is what we do, which can help mock up ideas for new labels and packaging.
Well, even us now.
Yeah, we are using it.
For our artwork.
Yeah.
And we did do an AI cocktail episode.
Right.
So we're cutting edge here.
Yeah, so it's a real cool tool I think people are using nowadays. And I don't really have a problem with any of this.
Sure, why not? I am confused how a distillery that hasn't been open for 40 years can throw $44 million into an AI project.
It's because they're owned by Diageo, that's why.
Right. That's important to add. I want to say that.
It is. The next story we have is from justdrinks.com.
Yep.
Yamazaki distills the world's first whiskey using hydrogen fuel. As part of its proof-positive sustainability strategy, Beam Suntory has committed to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2040, and just this month, they've achieved a significant milestone by proving that hydrogen is a viable fuel source for direct-fired distillation. In 2021, the project known as Whisky, W-H-I-S-K, capital H-Y, hydrogen, received funding from the UK government to test the practical use of hydrogen-based decarbonization technology, but it was Suntory's Yamazaki team who carried out the trial using a pilot distillery in Japan in which a pure hydrogen flame was used to directly heat the still instead of the indirect steam coil method, which cuts carbon emissions by up to 100%, said Alistair Longwell, head of distilling and environment at Beam Suntory. As a company, we are intent on pushing the boundaries of green innovation, and it is through unique collaborative projects such as Whisky that we'll get there. We are thrilled to have achieved this new milestone and look forward to continuing to pursue a more sustainable, resilient future for our industry.
Right. So I don't know if it's exact same technology, but I was aware of buses that run on hydrogen power.
Yes.
Which basically involve, help me out with the Scott, because you're very scientific, but it's a matter of the hydrogen atoms and the oxygen atoms, right, being drawn together to make H2O, which is what water is. And the process of them merging is what drives the buses, and then their byproduct is just water.
Yeah, burning it gives off energy, and the byproduct is water.
Yeah,
exactly.
so, right. So that all that's left on the street is a puddle of water. And
Yeah.
why don't we all have hydrogen cars? I don't know.
The infrastructure, one, isn't there. Two, the safety isn't quite there either because it's very volatile. Like the Hindenburg, you remember that? That was filled with hydrogen.
Well, right. There's something called a hydrogen bomb, too, Scott. I want to point out to you, I mean, which is worse than an atomic bomb.
Certainly is. Right. So the technology is close. Right. And it's close enough to do these kinds of things.
Right.
But I think it's just going to be one part of a solution to get rid of fossil fuels. Like you were saying, there are certain instances, like a fleet of cars or vans for a company could use hydrogen fuel because it makes sense for that purpose. But for everybody's individual car, it doesn't really make sense.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe a few distilleries and a few cars have to explode for progress to be made. We'll just wait for it to be somebody else's.
That's right. So the third and final story in science and technology, and then we get to true crime.
I love true crime.
This is from Breaking Bourbon. California distillery creates whiskey survival kit.
I love it.
I don't know if this is really technology, but I included it here.
Sure.
I thought it was fun. With their unique surfer meets cowboy vibe, the Rod and Hammer Distillery in San Luis Obispo, California, is committed to crafting various high-quality bourbons, ryes, and canned cocktails that capture the diverse flavors and lifestyle of the state. And now the owners, whose nicknames are literally Rod and Hammer, have gone one step further, asking patrons to embrace the unexpected with their latest innovation, the Whiskey Survival Kit. Crafted specifically for the alcoholic adventurer, this limited edition kit includes everything you need to create the perfect cocktail in any scenario: a bottle of Rod and Hammer's bourbon, bitters, cane sugar, brandy cherries, and a rocks glass. Essentials that redefine what it means to be well prepared, all neatly packaged in a waterproof protective case. Although it may not guarantee survival on a desert island, it does ensure a memorable time, transforming any moment into a spirited adventure. Right. The super limited kits are priced at $200 and available for order at the distillery's website, rodandhammer.com/survival, because sometimes being prepared means being hammered.
Be careful not to put in hammeryourrod.com because that's going to get a completely different website.
Completely different. That's, look over your shoulder before you Google it.
Yeah, not safe for work.
I didn't expect to go in there, but I guess maybe with Rod and Hammer, I should have.
I don't know how you thought I wasn't going to catch that.
Maybe that's why I included it, but I forgot that's why. All right, so now, true crime.
True crime.
From the Shields Gazette in the UK, man beats man with bottle of whiskey. A serial criminal with previous violence and weapons convictions left another man with head injuries after beating him with a bottle of whiskey that he stole to celebrate staying out of jail.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah. After being convicted last April on charges of theft and public disorder, Michael Gallagher, 35, of Ridley Terrace of Gateshead, England, had been sentenced only to community service. And so, to toast the fact that he kept his freedom, he stole a large bottle of whiskey from a convenience store, like you do. When confronted by another patron, Gallagher, who was already heavily intoxicated by then, hit the man on the head with the whiskey bottle and kicked him twice after he went to the ground, leaving him with an acute brain bleed that required 3 days of hospitalization. This week at his new court hearing, Gallagher expressed that he was highly remorseful and that he went too far, but the judge was having none of it and sentenced him to 5.5 years behind bars.
Wow. I think that's probably the best for all of us.
It doesn't say what whiskey it was, but I think we all know it was proper 12.
Yeah, it has to be proper 12. Right. It was not Colin McGregor. That we know.
And the last story that we have before we get to the whiskeys: Orange County Register in California. Man breaks into home, asks for food, finds whiskey.
Okay.
Shortly before 6 a.m. on Wednesday, March 20th, a 44-year-old homeless man broke into a Westminster, California townhouse, threatened the residents with a hammer, and asked for food. 3 women were asleep in their bedrooms when one was awakened by loud noises and came face to face with the man. A second woman fled, while the third stayed behind and attempted to speak to him. The 2 women then led the man into the kitchen and offered him something to eat, de-escalating what could have been a dangerous situation. When police arrived, the intruder was sitting on a living room couch, eating a banana and drinking from a bottle of whiskey he found inside the home. No injuries were reported, but the man was arrested on suspicion of armed robbery and burglary. The women could not be reached for comment.
I mean, yeah. See, to me, 6 a.m. is a little early for whiskey unless you're still out.
Yeah.
Unless you're coming in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like this was an episode of The Golden Girls.
Yeah, it seems very strange to me. Kind of anticlimactic true crime.
Was it? You think so? I thought this was the funniest one. He entered the home and he's just sitting there with a banana when the cops show up at 6 a.m. with a bottle of whiskey.
I mean, the fact that he started with a hammer and then some woman was able to charm him into like just relaxing.
That was Blanche who did that.
Right. I would have to think it would be Betty White.
Oh, Rose?
Yeah. Because she's too dumb to be afraid. You know what I mean? Maud would have kicked the crap out of her.
Yeah, she would have.
So I have just a quick announcement.
Okay, before we do the whiskeys?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You know, we're very tight with the people at Banash Liquors, and one of the owners, Rich, his father passed away at 87 years of age.
That would be Taylor's grandfather, right?
That would be correct.
Right.
He was a veteran helicopter pilot, both in and out of the service, and just by all accounts, a great guy.
Oh, man.
And so we send our thoughts out to Rich and his family.
Absolutely.
And to celebrate what must have been a truly great man and a great life.
Oh, that's a shame.
Hey,
That's,
87, he lived a great life, right? I mean, we all hope to get there, but even so, it's always sad when the end comes.
So the next thing that we do on the news is which whiskeys you can buy this month.
And how much of your wallet you need to bring.
That's right. You know what? This month, many of them are cheap.
All right. I love it.
I was very surprised to see it, but here we go. The first one that we have is A. Overholt Monongahela Mash Straight Rye Whiskey.
Is it related to Old Overholt?
It is.
Okay, go ahead.
Overholt holds the distinction of being one of the oldest whiskey brands in the United States, having been founded in 1810 by Abraham Overholt in Scottsdale, Pennsylvania.
Right.
This new permanent expression from current brand owners Beam Suntory is made with the same mash bill used in that year. It's 80% rye and 20% corn. I think that's what makes it a Monongahela mash.
Okay.
It's 95 proof. There's no age statement. Caramel, sandalwood, caraway, brown butter, honeysuckle, clove, and seasoned oak. The MSRP is $40.
Which is expensive for an Old Overholt. But really good. Really good. I'd try that. I would try that.
Absolutely. The second one we have is Bernheim Barrel Proof A224. Have you ever had one of the barrel proofs from Bernheim?
No, we had the regular and it was a little off-putting to us, so we never really followed up with it.
Yeah, I think maybe we should try this. So in 2005, Heaven Hill released Bernheim Original, the one we didn't quite like, the first widely available wheat whiskey since Prohibition, but it was only in February of last year that the first barrel proof expression was officially released, the A223. Unlike its distillery mates, Larceny Barrel Proof and Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, there are only 2 Bernheim barrel proof expressions per year, denoted by A and B, making the A224 only the 3rd release ever.
Okay.
It's 125.2 proof. It's aged 7 to 9 years. The mash bill is 51% wheat, 37% corn, 12% malted barley, baked apple, orange peel, musty aged oak, chocolate fudge, and vanilla. The MSRP is $65.
So the musty aged oak is what scares me.
Yeah, right. I think that's what we didn't like about the other
part of the regular. We'll give it a try, though.
Sure. The next one, not technically a whiskey, but I thought I'd include it anyway because we've done flavored whiskeys before.
Yep.
Crown Royal has a new flavored whiskey. Diageo-owned Crown Royal has cornered the flavor whiskey market following the success of their vanilla, peach, and salted caramel whiskeys.
Oh, very good. I've had them. They're very good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just the best of a terrible industry.
The famed Canadian whiskey house thinks they have another hit on their hands with Blackberry.
Well, yeah. I got some Blackberry stories. Blackberry brandy is something
Yeah. You've actually told this, but go ahead and tell it again.
No, it's like when we were kids, we would go to the Poconos, which is, of course, a mountain range up in Pennsylvania. We would go sledding and tubing and such. And I guess we were anywhere from the ages of 8 to about 13 or 14, I guess. Well, if you came down the hill and you wiped out, snow up back of your jacket, in your neck, in your socks, whatever, one of the dads would run over and they'd brush off, and they had these like big, large leather flasks strapped on their shoulder filled with blackberry brandy. Well, you open your mouth and they give you a little shot and send you back up the mountain. Now, this is the 70s, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
So, things are a little bit different back then.
It really was.
Yep.
And on our flavored whiskey episode, Laddie's Night, we had a blackberry whiskey.
Starlight.
From Starlight, exactly.
Yeah, that was great.
That was delicious.
Yeah.
So this one is 70 proof, no age statement, no mash bill, of course. Couldn't find any reviews, but I'm guessing it tastes like blackberries.
Yeah, I'm sure it's delicious. And once again, these are technically liqueurs, so people get really mad. Scott gets actually madder at Fireball than I do, because to me, Fireball is just a cinnamon liqueur. It's a whiskey liqueur, but it's just a liqueur. And it's like comparing Coors Light to some type of
stout or something.
Yeah, or like Samuel Adams winter brew. It's like they're two different animals. One you drink after you cut the grass, and the other one you have with fine pulled pork or something like that.
I get mad because it's so fucking popular, and it's just not that great.
No, but a shot right out of the freezer, it's refreshing.
Right, but like people are not drinking it like that. They're drinking shot after shot after shot, and they're drinking it in a glass, and they're just gulping it down, and they're buying it in giant magnums.
They have the best marketing.
Oh, they absolutely do.
It's got to suck coming back up. That's all I'm going to say. Like, the reason I would never get drunk on Fireball is because you don't ever want that coming back up. That's like drinking screwdrivers or whiskey sours all night and then throwing up. That's a bad night.
It's like fucking Drano.
Yeah. It is. It's terrible.
The MSRP of that is $27.
Yeah, right. As it should be.
All right. So the next whiskey we have is an actual whiskey. These are all rather actual whiskeys now.
Actual whiskey?
Yes. The Ezra Brooks 99 port wine cask finished bourbon.
Interesting.
Yeah. New from Lux Row Distillers. This will be a permanent offering of their flagship Ezra Brooks 99 bourbon finished in port wine casks for 6 months. It's 98.4 proof. It's aged at least 4 years. 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley, vanilla, tobacco, leather, sweet fruit, and dark chocolate. The MSRP is $35.
We've had some very interesting experience, right, with Old Ezra, and they have a distiller's choice that was really good. Banash had a barrel pick that Billy just raved about because it was like $37. Like, if you're not buying this, you're crazy. They always give you something that's interesting, that's affordable. And once again, what Scott and I tell you, there's stuff you can drink without breaking the bank. It's out there, and that's one of them.
That's right. The next one we have is a pair of whiskeys from Milam and Greene that they've released in the past 2 months since we did our last news episode. This is from their wildlife collection. So with its wildlife collection, Milam and Greene brings bourbon and the animal kingdom together, with a portion of the proceeds from these limited releases being donated to parks and wildlife causes in Texas. Past releases were named after the white-tailed buck, free-tailed bat, not portly bat, bobcat, rattlesnake, and scorpion. And they've released 2 more. Both are Tennessee single barrel bourbons. One is the Golden Eagle. The other is Mockingbird. The Golden Eagle is 8 years and the Mockingbird is 7 years. Otherwise, everything else is the same. It's 128.2 proof, 84% corn, 8% rye, 8% malted barley. The MSRP is $150.
The bottles are different, but the whiskey's the same, or?
With these 2, one's an 8 year, one's a 7 year, but different barrels.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
Next whiskey we have is a new Riff 8-year bourbon. As we discovered on episode 66 last summer, New Riff creates most of their whiskeys as bottled and bond expressions. However, even though 8 years wouldn't disqualify bottle and bond status, this one isn't bottle and bond because it uses a blend of bourbons made in 2 different distilling seasons.
Right.
It's 100 proof, 8 years aged, 65% corn, 30% rye, 5% malted barley, sweet corn, brown sugar, vanilla, oak, citrus, cold brew coffee, cocoa, and cream. The MSRP is $68.
Cold brew, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We did the Jameson cold brew, right?
Yeah.
And so coincidentally, coming out next week is an episode we did on Few Distillery, and one of their expressions that we featured, which is a bourbon that instead of being proofed with spring water, they use coffee.
Yeah. I can't wait to have already tasted it.
Yeah, right, because we haven't recorded that yet, so we will taste it. We will have had tasted it.
Exactly. That is grammatically correct.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one we have is Rebel 100 6-year bourbon, formerly known as Rebel Yell. It was a brand created in the 1930s by the famed Stitzel-Weller distillery, which never really garnered as much fame as its label mates W.L. Weller, Old Fitzgerald, or Pappy Van Winkle. So in 2006, Lux Row, now under the MGP umbrella, bought the brand, which had recently shortened its name to simply Rebel. This newest release uses William LaRue Weller's original mash bill dating back to 1849. It's 100 proof, 6 years aged, 68% corn, 20% wheat, 12% malted barley, corn, oak, toasted pecans, vanilla, nutmeg, plums, cherries, raspberries, butterscotch, lemon, black pepper, and clove. MSRP is $60.
When I was a kid, Rebel Yell was a very cheap whiskey.
Very.
And I drank it, the Rebel Yell.
Like $10.
It was like a bright label. Like, it was like, it's like a yeehaw type of label. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You weren't doing great if you were drinking Rebel Yell back in the day. But what I've had from Rebel has been very good. And once again, also has had the distiller's choice that I've had was very good.
Yeah, especially for the price.
Yeah. I mean, $55. Now we're at $60 for this.
Yeah. All right, so the only crazily priced one that we have on the list right now.
And it's allowed.
Yeah. A Rabbit Hole Founders Collection, Mizunara finished bourbon. The Founders Collection, first launched by Rabbit Hole in 2020, emphasizes whiskeys that are limited edition, cask strength, and often focused on unique finishes. This is their first Mizunara finish since 2021. Mizunara, of course, is Japanese oak. It's 103.8 proof, 15 years aged, plus 1 year in the extra finishing of the Mizunara oak. The mash is not disclosed. Worn leather, bananas Foster, sandalwood, mint, demerara sugar, creme brulee, hazelnut, and chocolate-covered toffee with tobacco, orange rock candy, and vanilla frosting. Guess the price.
$499.
Way higher.
Oh, all right. Well, you tell me.
Just to throw out something.
$1,200.
Ooh, $1,500.
How many bottles are they releasing?
I don't know. I didn't see that. It's not a lot.
I mean, it should be one.
So the reason I'm mentioning this is we are going to do a Rabbit Hole episode.
Right.
I think it'll come out in June.
Rabbit Hole, we've talked about them on here before in the news. A couple other their Founders ones are outrageous.
Yeah, they're outrageous.
But it's almost like an artistic venture. Like, it's not for us. It's something they want to create, but they do enough normal whiskey where it doesn't bother me. I saw the chicken cock rye today for $209 in the store.
Yeah.
I was tempted for a minute. I was like, I'd like to drink that again and see if it was as good as we remember.
Yeah, the Island Rum one.
Would that be the old Carter of the summer,
Yeah.
I don't know. And you said that's the last one?
No, we have 3 more.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The Sagamore Manhattan finished rye. That we've actually had this. So first released in limited...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I remember it.
Yeah, limited quantities in 2020. To high acclaim, Sagamore has announced the return of fan favorite Manhattan finished rye whiskey, which aims to deconstruct the flavors of the Manhattan cocktail by finishing their straight rye in separate vermouth, bitters, and cherry brandy barrels for a minimum of 20 months. It's 103 proof. It's at least 4 years aged. It's a blend of MGP's 95 5 rye and their 51% rye whiskeys. Tasting notes are, as you would expect, vermouth, cocktail cherries, copper, which is weird, spice, orange peels, Angostura, leather, sugar, and oak. The MSRP is $80.
This was really good.
It's fantastic.
It's wonderful. And is it worth $80? Yes. Would I love it at $65? Yes.
Of course.
But remember, if you're ordering Manhattans where we are, it's $15.
Yeah.
So if me and Scott go out and get 2 Manhattans, we're right there. At $60 with the tip, it's $80 for walking out, you know what I mean, for 4 drinks.
Right.
So if I can get a bottle and enjoy those flavors, sipping it neat, and have it last for, I don't know, 12 drinks. And
we'll have 6 each.
Right, 6 each. Right? Hopefully not the same night, but maybe.
You never know.
We've done it. We're doing it tonight.
Yeah, we're drinking a lot tonight.
Yeah, we're going to have a few. So listen, some things hit and some things miss. Even if this is terrible, I respect anybody who's being creative out there. In this case, it's not terrible. It's amazing.
It is. So the next one we have is Stranahan's.
Ooh, love Stranahan's.
A new favorite of Ed's, yeah. Diamond Peak Caribbean Rum Cask American Single Malt.
Interesting.
Every year, Stranahan releases a new Diamond Peak expression, which has a history of experimenting with cask finishes, and this year is no different. Several single malts of various ages were finished for 6 to 18 months in a mix of rum casks sourced from Barbados, Martinique, and the Dominican Republic. It's 90 proof, 6 to 9 years aged. It's 100% malted barley, dried apricot, creme brulee, tropical fruits, brown sugar, and cola spice. The MSRP is $85.
Cola spice. She was my favorite Spice Girl till they cut her.
She did too much coke.
She was Coke Spice, actually. No, Coked Spice.
Coked up Spice.
Yeah, she's always a little bit fast on her dance steps. A little offbeat. Is that the last one?
No, we got one more.
One more. I can't count today. Yeah, I'm not rushing you. You can have 5 more if you want. I just don't know where we are.
Yellowstone, rum finish, another rum finish.
Yeah.
Bourbon.
Well, summer's coming, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a
theme.
Yeah.
This new release, part of Yellowstone's Special Finishes collection, made with their standard bourbon mash bill and finished in Cuban rum barrels for 8 weeks. It's 100 proof, at least 4 years aged, 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley, poached pear, gingerbread, tobacco, toasted marshmallow, brown sugar, vanilla, and coconut. The MSRP is $50.
Now, see, with Yellowstone, I had a barrel pick one time that was amazing, and then their other stuff has just been hit or miss for me. So how much? 80?
50.
Oh, I try this for 50.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's 100 proof too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we got a lot of good.
No, that's a great deal. That's a great deal.
Yeah.
So I got one bottle that didn't make the list, but I want to add it.
That's why you were being so ADD about it.
Yeah. So that's why I keep asking when we're done, because I had one more.
Are we done? Are we done?
We reported about a year ago.
Yeah.
I checked my ones at home, and they were all bottled in 2022.
Okay.
I don't have any from 2023.
Okay.
So, well, let me tell you all what we're talking about. Evan Williams has a single barrel. It's identifiable by being dipped with a wax top, kind of like Maker's Mark, but the wax is black. And it was announced that they're no longer distributing it outside of the distillery. And I haven't seen it for over a year. Well, today I'm walking down, and it's so funny, I had a $25 gift certificate just burning a hole in my pocket at this place. And I said, should I get an Evan Williams bottle and bond, which is like 21 and just not pay anything, you know? And right next to it, there's a single barrel. And I'm like, what in the hell is that doing there? So I grabbed it. It was $37, about $5 more than it was. And I'm stunned. And I bring it here. And Scott, you know what's going on, right?
So I prepared this like the week before. So I didn't see this until today that Heaven Hill was so happy with the bottling of this particular batch that they ended up releasing it to more states than just Kentucky, which 2 years ago we talked about. We did a short called Two Men Too Angry, where we did the single barrels of Evan Williams and Elijah Craig, riffing off our episode 9 in our very first season, the Elijah Craig and Evan Williams episode that we did, Two Angry Men. And it was like California, New Jersey, and another state. I don't remember which was.
And I'll tell you one thing. The guy in the store told me that there's a guy who loves it. He comes in every day and buys one bottle and goes home. He's like, I want to let the pack eat. You know, I'm not going to buy them all. I'm not going to be an asshole.
Right.
And he evidently had done that right before I got there, or else I wouldn't have had one for me to buy.
Right.
And so I thank whoever that guy who's doing it right.
And there we go.
Yep.
All right, so the next thing that we do is what's coming up in May. So there are 5 Fridays in May. We're going to release 4 podcasts. On the 3rd, which is next week, episode 73, we're finally doing Few Spirits. On the 10th, we're doing the short of Bullet American Single Malt. That'll be with Jeff.
Yes.
Possibly with Gabe. On the 17th, the next week after that, is the bonus short, the Star Trek Spirits Captain's Table number 2. The most expensive whiskey that we've ever been sent.
Yes.
And on the 24th, we'll be right back here doing the May news. Ed, take us out.
Thanks, Scott, for all your preparation and great stories, great information.
As always.
We do our best to keep you informed. You know, we are on the cutting edge of now science and technology, plus the industry and news, financials of it, what whiskeys you can buy, what whiskeys you should buy.
We're the best.
And so tune in again next month where we will give you all the news that's fit to drink.
That's right.
For the Whiskey Tangent Podcast, I'm Ed.
I'm Scott.
Cheers, everybody.
Later.